Hey everyone, this is Beth Barling, and this is a conversation with Jenn Roth. Jenn Roth is a divine feminine empowerment artist and earth magic visionary. She is a mother of four, and she embodies and embraces her magic and her gift to the world through her connection with Gaia, her connection with Mama Earth. So Jenn lives on this beautiful property, this beautiful wooded property, and she was able to really hone in on her purpose and hone in on her, the meaning of her life and find her peace and balance by just being in this wooded area, being in this gorgeous space of nature where she's able to witness the beauty of Mama Earth. She's able to witness the feminine. She's able to witness fluidity. She's able to see that balance and cycles of Mama Earth, and that is her connection to the divine. Jenn's gifts come through photography, they come through yoga, they come through forest bathing, anything that really allows us to exude that fluidity, that cycle that is us, not just that piece of us that we show to the world, but all those different pieces of us, the dark and the light, the good and the bad, everything about us that cultivates that divine presence, that divine gift of who we are. And she does it with the compassion and nurture of Mama Earth, of Gaia. This is also, if you're watching this in real time, this is the kickoff for my Goddess series. So I couldn't think of somebody else who is better to kick off a Goddess series than Jenn Roth, the owner of Gaia Dawn Studios and our Divine Feminine Empowerment Artist. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to Jenn, just drop a comment below. All of her contact information is at the end of this. And I will also post a link to the Goddess series if you are interested in learning more about not just Mama Earth, Gaia, but learning about all the different, facets of the goddess, facets of the divine, facets of the feminine, all those pieces that seem to be surfacing now, pulling us into this space of balance with the masculine and feminine, pulling us into this space of dissolving duality, dissolving hierarchy. So much love.
Hey everyone, this is Beth Barling, and I'm here with
Jenn Roth.
Jenn Roth. And what do you do? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, Jenn?
You know, I title myself a divine feminine empowerment artist and an earth magic visionary. So what that means is I help women improve their spiritual health, and I help them trust their instinctual feminine power through photography, nature, yoga, and intuitive guidance.
Yes. So I've had a photo session with Jenn, and it's very intuitively led. It's almost, you're just sort of a conduit of us like stepping into what we want to express through the medium of photography, which is so gorgeous, so beautiful. And this is your beautiful yard. So do you want to talk a little bit about what makes this so magical and what makes this like just being out in nature, what this does for you and how this sort of is a part of your message and what you're doing?
Yeah, so this property is truly magical, and it has helped me heal and ground myself in so many ways. And being who I am, I look for ways to share that with other people, because that's a part of my purpose, is really sharing my gifts and what is available to me with others who are in need of that. So, you know, I walk back here. I have a few acres. My husband put in all kinds of trails all around. And I walk back here almost daily. And that is truly a huge part of my spiritual practice. Yeah. And the beauty in that is, like, not only it allows me to slow down and take in this amazing sensory experience, you know, it's like the smells, the sounds, the colors, the feeling, all of it. It's like this beautiful mindfulness practice for me to just slow down and be completely present. It also is a beautiful space for me to pray in or to meditate in, and I get downloads all the time while I'm back here, because I invite Spirit in and ask Spirit, how can you work through me? And this is a space that I'm able to hear those whispers and then have the courage to take action on them, right? That's the hard part. But, and not only do I have that, you know, mindfulness practice, it's also having the awareness of what's happening with the earth and how to use that energetically to fuel my desires. So I'm a huge fan of celebrating the seasons and the cross quarters and that wheel of the year. And coming back here and walking daily gives me the ability to actually see what's happening with the earth and how that can apply to my life. So in the winter months, I'm really going within and I'm really slowing down and I'm really looking at the beauty in stillness. And then in the spring, it's planting the seeds and seeing all of, you know, the things that are coming up and coming to life, how that inspires me to plant seeds and how that I can apply that. So now, you know, as we're moving into summer, it's like the take action time.
Yes, fire.
So it's all about, okay, I need to really, you know, have the courage to take action on what I'm feeling called to do. So yeah, it's such a gift to be able to have that awareness and really use that powerful energy and apply it to my life. And that is something that I desire to help other women do.
I love that. I think that that's so important. What a gift to actually take the time to step outside and, like, you know what the wheel of the year is, you know what the seasons are, you know what the earth is doing.
Right.
But there's something really beautiful about stepping out onto your land and witnessing what the earth is doing in this moment and how that can be how that reflects the cycles of your own life and really applying that. That's just a daily, it's an unbelievable, like, grounding reminder.
Yes.
I love that. And you talked a little bit about, you said you were a divine feminine
empowerment
artist. And I love that. Obviously, I do a lot of work with the divine feminine myself, so that's magical. And a lot of that is just being present and feel like being embodied and being in our bodies and really connecting to our own cycles and taking that time to go within and taking that time to plant seeds and not always being in that sort of toxic yang energy of always going. So a little, I guess, how do you embody? I know that you and I, so we do a lot of divine feminine work and we come together in this mutual, in alignment of this part of our work.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable how different it looks for both of us. So when you think of the divine feminine, how do you bring that into your empowerment? How does that show up as an empowerment artist when you're bringing, you know, this being of the divine feminine? How does that show up?
I feel like Gaia works through me, and that's why I named my business Gaia Dawn Studios. I have a huge, deep connection with Gaia, and that's kind of who I channel in my work without even trying. She just works through me, and I open myself up to her, and I ask her for her wisdom and her guidance. So, you know, with every single person I work with, I meditate beforehand. I invite her in. I ask for her to use me as, you know, a vessel. And I think that having this space, she led me here to this space, right? And then being able to just hold that space for women to feel grounded with the earth, whether it be through photography or forest bathing or yoga. I have different avenues that I like to do it through, but it's just, it comes natural to me. And it's always earth-based because the earth is our mother. So I think of divine feminine, I think of Mother Earth. And I'm very, you know, aligned with the moon cycles and doing rituals that align with the moon cycles, as well as the seasons and the cycles of the earth. So having rituals that align me with the earth is a big part of it as well. But intuitive guidance, that's like my jam. And really knowing how to quiet everything down enough to get clear and hear those whispers and then have the courage to act on them, that's where it's at for me. So that's what I really love to help other women do as well. Quiet all the chatter, get out of their head, get into their body, and gain the courage to act on what those whispers are telling them.
You know, one of the things that I do a lot of work with, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, is I'm doing work with the Sophia Code circles. I think I did mention that to you. But one of the, there's a lot of work with Isis. And they say that, you know, Isis's magic was all because she laid down on the earth and just let her heart talk to the earth. Did we talk about that? Because I feel like that sort of, when I read that, that like just resonated with me. Like it just, like I can't stop thinking about how beautiful that is, that she literally just laid on the earth and would give and receive through that heart space and Mama Earth, that whole connection, that divine feminine energy.
And that
sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
So immediately I envision myself helping you create art.
Yeah.
And actually creating an image of you doing that. Because that's another way that I bring my gifts out there, right? Is like having these conversations with somebody and saying, well, what do you need to see in yourself? How can we create images that are going to be symbolic of what you want to feel? And I mean, it's the most fun thing ever.
It is.
We do.
Yeah.
And then create these gorgeous images that you can revisit whenever you want and see that in yourself. You know, it's...
Yep. And I think it's important to keep up with that kind of art, in my opinion, because as you move through this visual expression of who you are, like, you know, we're blogging, I'm talking about things, but having this visual expression and having somebody come in and take images of you and allowing that divinity move through both of us. You know, you look back and you're like, this is who I was then.
Yes.
And this is, you know, like there's a different message. There's always a different message blossoming when you're allowing that divinity to move through you, right? Because you're moving through different pieces.
Yes.
So that's such a beautiful piece, I think, of the gift of the art behind expression.
I agree.
And embodiment. And you know, just embodying your gift and your message. Being it, and you know, it's easy. Sometimes it's not always easy, I think, to see our, well, I don't think it's not easy to see. It's this availability, right? It's this just allowing things to unfold, that whole beautiful, I'm trying not to put labels on it, but I'm so excited about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of us are conditioned to believe that we can only embody certain things if we fit a certain mold. And I am very much about dismantling that idea and really allowing you exactly as you are to feel what it is that you want to feel and see images of you embodying that energy, because it never has anything to do with your physical appearance.
No. And it's all the pieces of you. Because a lot of times your physical appearance is what you're allowing the world to see. What you've been told you're allowed to show to the world.
Yes.
But it's more about this embodying all the pieces of you and falling in love with all the pieces of you.
Yes.
And I feel like it's that moving through that. I don't even think, I know for me, like as I move through levels of loving myself deeper and witnessing who I am deeper, it's unbelievable the pieces that you don't realize you're hiding or ashamed of, that you've been conditioned to be ashamed of, that you've been told are not okay.
Yes.
And there's these, as you unpack these things, there's all these underlying fears, and it all comes down to, an external indicator of who you're allowed to be. And it sort of shuts down that internal, which is like everything you're saying, just empowering you
to own
be,
every piece of you. Exactly. And that can be a really hard journey. And I know, because I've done it.
Yeah, yes.
There was a lot of parts of me that were suppressed. And quite a journey learning how to shed light on those parts of myself and heal that relationship with those parts of myself and bring them out into the world without feeling like, I'm worried about how it's received.
Yeah. Yes. And no matter what beautiful thing is happening in the world, whatever, as we move through a lot of And I think a lot of divine feminine work is the one, right? Is that connection amongst all of us. It's that what unites us as one entity.
Yeah.
And as we're moving through these, we move through these beautiful emancipations and explorations and just expansion into becoming more of a body of one. It's unbelievable how like a lot of shadows creep in about what you're allowed to say and who you're allowed to be and how you're allowed to show up, and it all comes back to remembering to be in that, in my opinion, embodying self-love, because you can't love somebody else until you've moved through that embodiment of self-love.
Totally agree. And it's a practice.
Yeah, yes, it
It's
is.
a daily practice. And I think that's what can be a misconception to a lot.
Something else comes up.
And like you said, those shadows like to creep back in and they like to pull you back a little bit. And then you have to remind yourself, oh no, we've already been down this road.
Embodied it. The reinforcement just keeps showing up.
Yes.
It's almost like your higher self is like, oh, you're not finished. Bigger lesson and message every time.
It's so true. And it requires a tremendous amount of resilience and courage.
And a tremendous amount of courage and resilience. I think those are perfect words. Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Because the stuff's just going to keep coming.
Speaking truth with love. That's like, I feel like that's like the whole work right now, is to actually really sit with yourself and figure out what is true, what is your truth.
Yes.
And really owning that you're this gorgeous piece of this divine puzzle.
Yes.
And that it is your work to bring this forth. And if you don't bring it forth, oh, that's so crazy. Every time we do these conversations, something crazier comes up, and that's that, oh my, Jesus says it in the apocryphal Gospels. Oh God, what does he say? I'm going to have to edit this a little bit. I'm going to have to put it up there, but it's something about if you do, like if you bring forth what is within you, something, and then if you don't bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. Like both will just, like if you don't bring it forth, I'm going to have to edit that a little bit, but it's almost like you have, it's always trying to come through. Your message, your divinity, that piece is always trying to move through.
Yes, and I think it helps me have the courage to keep doing the work.
Trusting in that,
Knowing.
being aware of that, yes.
Totally, and knowing that like, I think a lot of women have this, I definitely go through this imposter syndrome where it's like, well, who do I think I am?
Always.
And I can claim that I can help someone with this, right? But then when I think about what comes so natural to me and how far I've come just using my intuition, and I see so many women who are struggling and don't have access to that, I'm like, well, who am I not to?
Who am I not to?
And this is a divine gift. So if I do not deliver it and help people with it,
because no one can bring your gift
No.
forth except you.
so that's part of like my prayers and meditation when I'm out here, and that's part of, I ask spirit, like work through me. I trust that you're going to continue to put people in my path that are in need of my gifts. And I promise that I will have the courage to keep believing in myself that I can do this work.
Yes. It is important. I can't wait to get that quote. I want to get into a little bit about how you, the different ways that you bring this to your community, the different ways that you bring this into the women that are coming to you for support and guidance and empowerment. But I want to connect a little bit more to just this Mama Earth energy, because I feel like there's so much here. Your connection with Mama Earth is so innate and natural, and just, you're just called to this grounding, beautiful energy. My connection, when I work with Mama Earth, I feel like what has come through for me so much this year is this, this embodiment of all of us being part of this one space, this one Mama Earth. Like every one of us has our feet on Mama Earth, and there's no distinction between her love for every single person on this planet. And I also think it's important to remember that she loves you just as, like she loves me. I'm not telling you, this is the work that I'm going through.
Yeah.
Is that she loves me just as much. And there's a huge empowerment there. And just like you said, a responsibility, a self-responsibility to show up, and to show up in that energy of compassion and love.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not our paths align or our paths are, you know, need to meet up or not meet up. It's this gorgeous, I think it's like a release that I don't have to hold on to this energy of separatism. I can just really relax and sort of co-create this life of love, you know, being fully supported by Mama Earth.
Yes.
And when I think of her, I think of this mother who's had a billion years of practice. Do you know what I mean? Like her messages and her lessons, there's no limit or shortness to how divine and how just
Abundant.
practiced and abundant, and how they're just the perfect messages for you. Billions of people, maybe millions of years, billions of children she's had. Imagine being a mother of billions of children. And just like how good you would be, just think how good you are with your second. I mean, or your third, like how cool things are. And, or even with anything that you're doing, anything that you have such practice in doing. And now she's, a billion times over. You're her billionth child. And this, it's uncanny to think of what's available to you when you really sit with the earth, just the earth. There's no need for fluff and fanciful things like that. It's just a matter of connecting to the earth. So I love that about what you do. I do.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how you use this space, this gorgeous energy to empower other women. What are different ways that you're doing this? And I imagine, we're saying women, but I imagine if a man came to you.
Sure.
I mean,
I just am naturally drawn to women,
right,
you know.
Same. I feel like it is a more natural, but as we evolve and expand, the divine feminine is so much a part of men.
Absolutely.
And the divine. I was given a son. Absolutely precious young men are, and how this work is so of the divine feminine, just embodying and embracing that inner divinity and oneness, this presence and being in our bodies, perfectly in our bodies, how important it is. Anything that hurts women is hurting men.
And I have to say, as a mom I have 2 girls and 2 boys, my girls are so much more challenging than my boys, because they just, I'm raising them to be empowered. They have voices, and they make it known when something that I am saying does not align, or they have a tremendous amount of resistance to what it is that I want to share and nurture and guide, right? My boys don't have that. My boys welcome it. My girls have this confidence that I've instilled in them, which I have to constantly say, that will that they have, that strong will, it is so challenging to mother and parent, but I know it will serve them in the world as they grow. So it's learning how to not take it personal, and how to nurture it for good.
And I feel like that comes back to, again, starting with self-love and honoring that whatever's within you needs to come forth. And when you see that divine fractal in your daughter, it's about allowing that to flourish.
Yes.
It is such a beautiful thing. There's so many ways that, I could as a mother squash that beauty within them, oppress it and condition it.
Yes, exactly.
And I feel like that availability for their divinity is this lineage of healing. And I think that there's a lot of ancestral trauma, maybe, with women.
There's a lot of cycle breaking happening.
Yes.
There's a lot of ancestral trauma healing happening. And we've taken on some really big work coming into
and this family dynamic that we're in, whatever it is. So it's definitely like learning how to nurture that will for good, but also teach them when it's okay to like put it aside right now.
Is mom and dad. Anybody is so, especially your parents, are so influential in your capacity to express yourself. Isn't it right? It's not just about telling them to express themselves and embody their truth. You have to really be a way shower.
Yes.
And that is the constant daily work.
Yes. And that definitely gives me fuel to keep doing it. Knowing that I have 4 sets of eyes looking up to me to teach them, it definitely gives me a lot of fuel to keep going. But, you know, this past year with the pandemic and everything, I think we've all, you know, shed light on a lot of shadows and had to dig deep into courage and resilience and, you know, so, some parts of that are hard to accept, are hard to heal. And to be doing it in front of your kids and then being witness to all of that part of it, I think that's been a big challenge in the last year. That's probably been the hardest thing for me. I think doing my work in the world, that just comes so natural and easy, and it fills me up. But the personal journey and the mothering, that has, it's just been definitely the most challenging thing I've ever done this past year, I think.
I think the natural inclination to do the work and bring the work into the world, in my opinion, is a byproduct of personal work.
Yes.
And just staying on that. And it's not about perfection, right? Because I find that for me, like being a way shower and showing up for my kids is also about making mistakes.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I don't do in front of my kids is cry. I don't show emotion, and I still don't do it. No matter how many therapists tell me to do it, I still, and I will tell, like I'll cry at commercials.
Yeah.
And I'm like, probably because I should have cried yesterday about this one thing, but I didn't. So now I'm, you know, and I don't explain that, but you know, it's about coming through so authentically in your, all the different ways, whether you label them good, bad, or otherwise, however you label them, it's still an expression of you, and just allowing the journey to show up. It gives, I believe it gives room and that availability for me, for them to make mistakes and be okay with it. And that's one of the things I think I've been working on, being in such close contact with them.
And as long as your kids, you know, see you owning mistakes, but learning from them and growing from them and not repeating them, it gives them permission to be okay with making mistakes too, because we can't have them thinking they can't make mistakes, because that leads to
the same conditioning we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
And it's amazing, you know, and I'm even thinking of like the devil's advocate, like how he gets to his son in so many different ways. It's almost the same way, like how conditioned we are, thousands of years of orthodoxy and all these different pieces.
Yeah.
You know, we undo one form of conditioning, and then there's another one that's like, we're at bat, we're ready. Like, can you figure this one out? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's different ways that we have learned to adapt in this orthodoxy, patriarchal society. And it may have had a purpose at one time. In my opinion, it doesn't have a purpose at all.
I completely agree.
Allowing, the work is just allowing that vulnerability and authenticity and
Yes.
sovereignty and just feeling empowered by even the parts of you that are the most, just like really sitting with the parts of you that are really shameful.
Yes.
And vulnerably saying, this does not align with you, and I'm sorry that this happened. Do you know what I mean? Like those,
Yes.
you know, but I love you, and, you know, making that kind of.
That communication
Yes.
is vital, because there was like no communication around any of this for so long.
No.
It's like, you just don't talk about it.
In this culture, right?
Yeah. You just don't talk about that stuff. You just
No.
forget that, like, you act like it didn't happen. That's how you deal.
Yes. Like, I look back at past traumas in my life, and I look back at how, like, I moved through them, and I did the right things. I took this one to therapy. I went to therapy myself.
Yeah.
But the work didn't really come in, like, until I really stepped back and looked at it from a different perspective. You know, like when there's that moment in life where you sort of, for me, there's a moment in life when none of the tools I had, and not because my parents weren't amazing, because they were, but none of the tools that thousands of years of transcendence have made their way to me, when none of them were working. And I feel like in a way that was divinely organized. Well, I know it was divinely
Yeah.
set up so that I would have that almost rock bottom to say, there's got to be something different. There's something different here. And it's not something I'm going to find externally. It's something that I have to seek. There's no books on this.
Yes.
There's no rules on this. There's no one I can go to who has familiarity with my life the way it is right now. And that's that moment where you're like, I have to do this on my own. And that's that, I feel like it's that sovereign switch. And it only happens when you're super connected, I think, to your inner divinity.
Yeah, you know, that moment for me was when I went through my depression after I had my fourth child. I had bad postpartum, and I'd just moved out here. So I moved from Camden County, you know, on top of each other. That was all I ever knew. That's all my husband ever knew. And we moved out here to the country, to Sound County, like where there's like nothing. And everybody was like, what are you doing? Like, where's Wawa? Where do you go? Like, and I felt called to disconnect from that and to be surrounded by nature. And when I came out here and disconnected from all I knew, and I had, you know, my fourth child growing inside of me when I did that, it's like a switch happened where the conditioned Jen, that was just kind of not living intentionally.
I heard the words before you said them.
She was like awakened. And it was like, you don't have a choice anymore. And I went through it as a deep rest where I literally had to just, this is in my mind, and I don't know, I guess just become aware of how much I swept under the rug and didn't talk about and didn't acknowledge. And it all just kind of came to light and was like, you have to acknowledge this stuff. You have to honor it, and you have to shed light on it and heal it so that you can step into your power. And that was that moment for me. So after I had my son and things really, it wasn't pretty. It got really, really dark. But something just clicked inside of me when I got out in nature. And it was like this release. And I just said, okay, I've got to start doing the work. And that's when I started to, you know, intuitively allow myself to lead me to people that could help me. And I started to step outside of my comfort zone. And that's when those whispers started to come to me that I needed to start this business. And it was one of the most terrifying things I have ever done in my life.
Oh, starting a spiritual business. What a conversation. And it is so scary because it's one of those things that you're just not allowed to do, is to step out on your own, is to forge your own path.
It's that fear of misunderstanding. Like, I think fear was a huge part of, you know, do it. I just have to do it. And as I was trying to explain this to the people I was around, there was a huge lack of understanding. But you see, I think that's part of what was so important in the work, was that I couldn't lean on anybody to tell me how it looked. I couldn't lean on anybody to tell me what to do. I had to 100% trust myself. Keep giving myself the courage. Keep believing in myself enough to say, act on what your intuition is telling you. Just keep doing it. Don't worry about how it's received. Don't worry about everyone's lack of understanding. It will pay off. And I'm so proud of the me 4 years ago that took that leap of faith, because it has been such a gratifying journey, and it has been so fulfilling. And every person that I work with, not only do I help them, they help me.
Every time.
Yes.
It's the energetic exchange.
Yes.
And the value that I think you bring to the world. You, I am specifically speaking of you, not in just metaphorical terms as I usually do, but the value you or one brings to the world when they authentically express those whispers, those innate whispers. There's no one else in the world, like we said earlier, who can bring that to the table.
Yeah.
You are the only one that can bring the message to the people who need to hear that message.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you know, when you really sit down and think about it, and you have to, it's you know, saying it is one thing, you know it. Like when you sit down, you're like, all right, these are the messages I got from the divine. Like I heard this in my body. And, you know, I have to bring this to the world in all the different ways that maybe we perhaps block ourselves. When you sit and think about it, the fears and the worries and the misunderstandings and all those pieces, they don't amount to anything even close to authentically delivering your message.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Nope.
Nothing.
No, and the more that you ground into that, the easier it gets.
It is. To remember why, your why, to know your why and to remember your why and embody it every single day.
Absolutely.
And then we'll just edit this.
Okay.
This is so fun. So this is my first time filming with the selfie stick. Jen, I hope you end up in it because there's a whole lot of self-love happening right now with my... So we are walking on Jen's trails, as you can see behind us. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about the forest bathing. I will say I have been spoiled by a gorgeous circle out here in this phenomenal countryside, and it was unbelievably magical. So I'll let you go on and on about, on and on. I'm going to let you lead too, since I have no idea where I'm going. Do you want to hold? You want to hold this?
Sure.
Go ahead. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
Hello, little thorns. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So as far as forest bathing goes, like this is something that I'm really feeling into as an offering. I just did yoga under the cherry blossom tree in my front yard, and then we came back here and we forest bathed. And I absolutely love guiding women through the process because, you know, it's not just a walk in the woods. It's a mindful experience. It's a sensory experience. It's a spiritual experience. And if you don't slow down enough and you don't allow somebody to kind of guide you through it, you're not going to really know what that looks like. So it's pretty cool that I have the ability to do this for women and to just, and I'm leaning into one-on-one work with this. So we get to set an intention and see exactly what I can do to help aid you on your spiritual journey and take you through the forest and exactly guide you through a forest bathing session and connect with you on a deep soulful level and just give you a nice dose of healing energy.
So when you're walking through these woods, you'll just intuitively allow, so I think that's a huge thing you said is intention, right? Because intention is everything. Intention, you know, it's, we often, I believe, we don't know how powerful we are yet. Like I think we're still witnessing our own power, and it's always growing, right? As we understand it more, it grows. But our intention is so powerful. It's like a spell. So you'll bring them back here, and it's a mindfulness that piece, right? You're keeping them present and you're keeping them engaged in, I guess, what they're experiencing right now.
In when you slow down enough to just breathe and be with the earth and look around at the colors and the life and like look at all these cute little caterpillars.
Oh my God, well let's turn that around so they can see them.
Can we see?
Hello little guys. It is quite sensory.
Yeah, so like it's slowing down enough to notice things like that, right? Like the birds. Sometimes there are turkeys back here, deer, even fox. There's so much life back here.
Do you think, do you find like that sort of animal totemish thing with what shows up when you're out? Look at this.
Yes, and that's another cool thing is that a lot of sessions that I do with women, something will show up, like a dragonfly will be like a common theme that we see through the whole session, or butterflies or, and I really make sure that I pay attention to that, and then I send them the information on like what the symbolic meanings behind those things are.
So how long is a forest bathing session?
1 hour.
That is so sweet. You want to take us deeper?
Yeah, and
here?
we even have, you know, like water. Like I have a stream here. There's not a whole lot of water in there right now, but like you'll hear all the frogs jumping in, and you know, there's a felt tree over there. I took pictures of you on it.
Yes, I saw that tree
way.
when we walked past.
Yeah, but so like we even have that element of water, you know, and it's just so calming and purifying. And I've done shoots of women in the water as well. Found when he was making this trail.
Oh my God.
And he even found a little, I don't know what this is, but
Aww.
it's a baby one, and it's not a deer. I don't know what it is. Might even be like a hawk or something.
That's so cool.
Right? Hawk's my spirit animal. Totally.
And here we have, this is a deer head?
Yeah, this is a deer skull.
Isn't that amazing?
So again, like just slowing down enough that when you walk with the earth that you notice these things.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my goodness, you know? I don't know. It just connects me spiritually to something bigger than myself. And that's exactly, I think, what it is for me, is that I definitely have, you know, you could call it a stressful life. Being that I'm raising 4 kids that their ages range from 6 to 19.
Right.
And I run a business, actually 2 businesses, my family photography business too. You know, and we're maintaining all of this, and it's a lot, but because I come out here and I release the stress and I ask spirit to move through me, and when I am back here daily, a gratitude practice is a part of what I do as well. I am continuously bringing awareness to how grateful I am to have this slice of the earth, and what a privilege it is to tend to it and share it with Mama Earth, and share it with the people that are in need of its healing properties. So yeah, I mean, it's just,
There's a butterfly.
Yay, I haven't
So
seen
actually
these.
that's my animal that
Oh my
keeps
gosh,
showing
look
up.
how beautiful, Beth. It's a monarch.
Yeah.
That's my first monarch this year.
So transformation, right?
Yes. Beautiful.
So there it was. There's our message.
See?
So what work are you doing right now? What kind of offerings do you have out there now that you were talking about earlier, you know, and how can people, you know, because a big part of this is gathering community, bringing people together.
Yeah.
So the people who are meant to work with you, how can they find you and how can they work with you?
Well, you can find me at my website, which is Gaia Dawn Studios, Gaia the Earth Goddess, Gaia. Or on social media, Facebook or Instagram, Gaia Dawn Studios. And I'm offering Grounding with Gaia forest bathing sessions, 1 hour session. That's one-on-one work. I do periodically have like little retreats here where we'll do yoga, or I'll collaborate with another facilitator. And photography is always an option to work one-on-one with me. And that's, well, I just started a podcast with my friend Stacy Friedman. It's called The Sensitive Soul Support. And that's just conversations about parenting, running a business, living as a highly sensitive or an empath, as that's a large part of my community.
Yeah.
My one-on-one forest bathing sessions, I'm really feeling the call to work in person with women, not Zoom calls or phone calls. Or, you know, I created a program, and it's called For Your Spirit, and I just did that. It was a 6-week course. But it's all online. And I really feel like we've all been hiding for so long, and we're all just so cooped up that we're in need of like to get outside, be with nature. So I think that's why the forest bathing is really big for me right now.
Yeah, I think so.
And I just feel like people need to get outside
Yeah.
and to ground with the earth and to connect with other
Connection.
people
Yes,
in person.
I would agree.
So, yeah,
Very nice. Well, thank you so much.
thank you.